Welcome to an introduction to FEMA's Risk Map program, a training course for New Hampshire community officials. In this course, you will learn what FEMA's Risk Map program is and what the final deliverables will be, details of each step in the Risk Map process and when you can expect them to occur for your community, how to find out what Risk Map projects are currently underway in New Hampshire and then which projects affect your community, and finally, additional resources available related to the Risk Map program. Let's get started. Let's begin with what Risk Map is and why it is important. Throughout New Hampshire and the country, flooding is not only one of the most common and costly disasters, but flood risk can also change over time because of new building and development, weather patterns, and other factors. FEMA, which stands for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, is responsible for mapping flood risk in the United States. The agency and its partners do this by creating and publishing flood insurance rate maps, or also known as flood maps. Risk mapping, assessment, and planning, or Risk Map as it's spelled, is the process used to make these maps. However, this process makes much more than flood maps. The wide range of flood risk products and datasets that result of the Risk Map process can help guide land use and development decisions and help a community take mitigation action by highlighting areas of the highest risk, areas in the need of mitigation, and areas of floodplain change. There are two types of products developed through the Risk Map process: regulatory and non-regulatory products. Regulatory products are intended to be used as the basis for the official actions required by the National Flood Insurance Program. The first are the Flood Insurance Rate Maps, or FIRMs, which are the official community maps that show special flood hazard areas and the risk premium zones. Next is the Flood Insurance Study Report. When a flood study is completed for the NFIP, the information and maps are assembled into a Flood Insurance Study, or FIS report. The FIS report contains detailed flood elevation data in flood profiles and data table. Lastly is the FIRM database products. A FIRM database is a Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, version of the FIRM and most of the quantitative data in the flood insurance study. Next, non-regulatory products go beyond the basic flood hazard information found in the official regulatory products. These products provide a more user-friendly analysis of flood risk within a Risk Map project area. Many of these are intended to be used with GIS. First is the Flood Risk Map, which summarizes the notable flood risk within the project area and presents this data within one large map. It provides a color-coded view of a community's flood risk at the watershed level. You'll see at a glance constricted stream flows, at-risk facilities, and more. Next is the Flood Risk Report, which summarizes flood hazard and risk exposure to a community. In conjunction with the FIS report, it explains in detail the methodology and results of a flood insurance study. It can be helpful as it explains the flood risk studies, methods, and results all in plain language. Finally is the Flood Risk Database. This parallels the FIRM database and provides a wealth of data that may be used to analyze, communicate, and visualize flood risk. Communities are encouraged to use this database to support mitigation efforts and raise awareness. It houses datasets that you can view and analyze through GIS, which includes changes since last FIRM, water surface elevation grids, and more. Risk Map projects start at the watershed level, performing detailed studies and analysis. Once a watershed study is complete, the data is released in county-wide sets for each watershed. This means that communities may be included in more than one watershed and receive new maps for each project. For example, a community in Hillsborough County may receive new map panels as part of the Merrimack watershed, but also receive new map panels as part of the Kentucky watershed. These maps would also most likely be adopted into the community's floodplain regulations at different times. Currently, Risk Map projects are underway across most of New Hampshire. As shown, here are the basic steps and timeline for a Risk Map project, beginning with the discovery phase and ending with the effective products for your community. In total, a Risk Map project can take up to or more than 5 years. Let's dive deeper into each step of this process. The first step in a Risk Map project is called the discovery process. During discovery projects, FEMA and their project team collect current and historical flood-related data and then meet with state and local officials and others to review the data to get a complete picture of the area's flood risk. This information helps determine whether a flood mapping project is actually needed, and if so, what the scope of the project will be. For example, which streams or rivers will need a new or updated engineering analysis performed to more accurately show the current flood risk from nearby flooding. A discovery meeting will then be held where FEMA will present the process and timeline, share data already collected, and ask about local knowledge and areas they should study further. The community may find it helpful to involve other community representatives, including the road agent, fire chief, and anyone else who may have a good understanding of where flooding is happening or know of any new development that may impact future flooding. After the meeting, the community will have 30 days to provide FEMA with additional information that would prioritize areas for new or updated engineering analysis. The next step is a flood risk review meeting. This meeting gives communities the chance to review and provide early feedback on the draft versions of the preliminary FERM and FIS report. This meeting will also explain how your community can use the flood risk products to help inform the community's planning and development. Following the flood risk review meeting, FEMA will work to validate the draft FERM database, completing the draft database and concluding the collection analysis portion of the mapping project's initial engineering data. This engineering data will form the basis for mapping the Special Flood Hazard Areas, or SFHAs, on the FERMs. Communities will have 30 days to review the draft FERM database and share more data to support or modify this database. Once the study is complete, FEMA will provide copies of preliminary FERM and FIS reports to each community. FEMA will do this by contacting each community directly, notifying them of the preliminary products and instructions on how to access them. At this point, the preliminary maps and data are available to the public. Following the issuance of the preliminary FERMs and FIS report, FEMA will hold a Consultation Coordination Officer, or CCO, meeting with local community officials to review the preliminary FERMs and FIS report, discuss what has changed, and also answer any questions. Local officials will have a chance to learn the purpose and the benefits of the new mapping data, the resources, and the tools. Next, FEMA will initiate a 90-day appeal period for the communities on the preliminary FERMs and FIS report. Prior to the appeal period being initiated, FEMA will publish a notice of proposed flood hazard determinations in the Federal Register and notify each community. This notice will also be posted twice in a local newspaper. During this period, community officials and residents can submit scientific or technical information if they believe the flood hazard determinations are scientifically or technically incorrect. Additionally, FEMA will also accept comments during this period, including minor changes of road names, spelling errors, or other base map features. Following the 90-day appeal period, FEMA resolves all appeals and finalizes the changes to the FERM and FIS report. Following the 90-day appeal period, and once all appeals, if any, are resolved, FEMA will send each community a letter of final determination, or LFD, which establishes the final flood hazard data and the effective date of the new FERMs and FIS reports for each community. The LFD also indicates the 6-month period during which each community must adopt or amend its floodplain management regulations to reference the date and title of the new FERM and FIS report. It is important that each community plan ahead so that they can ensure their local floodplain regulations are compliant with the NFIP minimum regulations. This process can take some time and should be completed prior to the LFD being issued. Once the floodplain regulations are amended with the new FERM and FIS report date and are fully compliant with NFIP minimum requirements, the amended regulations must be submitted and approved by FEMA before the effective date of the FERM and FIS report. FEMA will host an open house. This is where residents and other members of the public can learn more about the area's updated flood risk. It includes seeing how the new maps may have changed and the flood insurance requirements for some properties. The updated FERM and FIS report will go into effect on the provided effective date noted in the LFD. The process is now complete, and communities should utilize the new risk products as part of their local floodplain management. Each community needs to also update any references to the community's FERM and FIS report and any other town or city documents, as well as on the community's website. New Hampshire RSA 674-57 allows New Hampshire municipalities to adopt the new FERM and FIS report through a resolution by the local governing body. Following the resolution passing, the statute also allows municipalities to amend their floodplain ordinance by replacing the old FERM and FIS report date with the new FERM and FIS report date without further action by the local legislative body. That being said, any other amendment to a municipality's local floodplain regulations must follow the community zoning amendment procedures, that being either town meeting, town ballot, or city council. Additionally, NFIP minimum requirements include provisions in local site plan review and subdivision regulations, which, if needed, will need to be amended by the local planning board prior to the effective date of the new FERM and FIS reports. During the mapping update process, the New Hampshire Floodplain Management Program aims to review all affected communities' floodplain management regulations for compliance with NFIP minimum standards. The New Hampshire Floodplain Management Program will be in contact with each community to provide the results of that review and also any amendments that are needed. Currently, there are risk map projects underway across most of New Hampshire. For communities affected by those projects, FEMA will notify your community of each step in the process as they go along. Updates and statuses of each risk map project are available on the New Hampshire Floodplain Management Program's current floodplain mapping activities webpage. This webpage is updated regularly as information is provided by FEMA. Additionally, if you have a specific question about a mapping project or want to know specifically if your community is covered by a risk map project, you can reach out to us at the New Hampshire Floodplain Management Program to learn more. Additional information on the risk map process can be found on FEMA's risk map website. Updates and statuses of risk map projects underway in New Hampshire are posted on the New Hampshire Floodplain Management Program's website. And finally, preliminary maps and data can be viewed and downloaded from FEMA's Flood Map Changes Viewer and FEMA's Map Service Center. Additional video modules in this series, Floodplain Management Learning for Community Officials on Demand, or FLOOD, are currently available on our YouTube channel. Accompanying this video is a knowledge check to quiz yourself on what you've learned today. This knowledge check will be linked in the description box below and available on our website. Thank you for watching an introduction to FEMA's Risk Map program. This has been a production of the New Hampshire Office of Planning and Development.